On today's episode, we have our week 2 preview. We'll be covering our favorite fantasy football matchups this week in Matchup Spotlight. Wow, we have a name for our matchup segment, Matchup Spotlight. Not only do we have Matchup Spotlight today, we're going to go position by position and give our favorite start sits for week 2. And if you are watching this video right now, odds are you care a lot about fantasy football. If you care a lot about fantasy football, you should be subscribing to this channel. Go ahead, hit the subscribe button, click the like button, and turn on those notifications. We're going to be coming to you 3 times a week to give Sunday recaps, waiver wire analysis, and weekly matchup previews. You are not going to want to miss out.
You're not.
How we feeling? How we feeling, boys? Ready to talk week 2?
Ready to talk week 2 for sure. I'm super excited. I got assigned a good matchup this week, so I'm.
You did after the Joshua Kelly debacle. Keegan texted me multiple times. Friendship on pause. So
it is on
Like,
pause.
you know
I
what?
can't believe, dude. We're podcast pros. You baited me into spending $80 freaking dollars of my
He dunked on you.
$100
He dunked
budget.
on you. The worst part was I had both of you texting me on the side. Sean's like,
Sean sending messages in other group texts that, like, saying like, "Oh, I just got Keegan to spend 80% of his budget. Ha ha ha! Look at me." Well, you know what? You're 0-1 against me this year, so
I woke up and looked at it and I was like, no.
I was shocked.
No.
I thought I'd get him. I thought I'd get him to spend like 50
50.
bucks. 80 was crazy, and I was like, that is some big dick energy from Keegan Thomson. Way to lay it on the
Pussy
line,
ass bids. Pussy ass bids.
yeah. None of your putting pussy ass bids. But let's talk matchups.
Let's get into
I've
week
had
2.
enough of this because I'm remembering that I don't want to be Sean's friend right now. So.
I'll kick us off here.
Yes.
I got a
Aidan,
juicy
kick us
one.
off.
I got a juicy
Okay.
one. So we've got a good one. We've got the Kansas City Chiefs at the Jacksonville Jaguars this Sunday morning. Boy, is this going to be a good one. So this is, to start with, this is the highest total of the weekend. They total, last time I checked earlier today, 51.5. Points. Nom, 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 nom. Everyone's going to score. Nom, 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 nom. Everyone's going to score. Chiefs are
Manja.
Yeah, so the Chiefs got the hook right now at -3.5. So everyone is kind of anticipating a bounce back game from the Chiefs. I think this is going to be a tough one. But Kelsey has been I didn't see his injury designation today. Did he practice today?
Limited participant.
It kind of feels like he's gonna play.
He's trending that way.
He's gonna play.
Probably a full.
So
But he's telling people on his podcast that he's going to play.
So this is just like an all vibes game for me personally. You got 2 of like the best quarterbacks in football. Like Trevor Lawrence last week looked pretty awesome. I think he ended last year on quite the hot streak. He did. In my opinion, like his first half was pretty pedestrian. Second half was awesome. I think we were all wondering, like, has Trevor Lawrence actually arrived? And I think after last week, Trevor Lawrence has definitely arrived. That offense came out and absolutely lit it up. 31 points against the Colts, who they're not the best defense in the world. They're not the worst. That's still a pretty impressive showing, in my opinion. Whereas the Chiefs, on the other hand, if they're going to have a chip on their shoulder this week, especially with Travis Kelce back. I think we're going to see the Chiefs that we're accustomed to from years past. So 20 points is... We're not going to see 20 points from the Chiefs this week, especially if Travis Kelce plays. I think we're looking at 35 plus. This is going to be an offense that comes back with, just hunger, chip on their shoulders. These were both top scoring offenses last year, so I'm fired up. Looking at the defenses, the Chiefs' defense was bad last week. There's kind of no way around it. They were bottom 10 in both rushing and passing yards allowed, which for Jaguars fantasy owners, you should be pretty fired up. I'm absolutely starting Ridley, absolutely starting Lawrence, absolutely starting ETN. I don't know what's going on with the wide receiver 2 in Jacksonville. I wish I could tell you go start Christian Kirk or Zay Jones, but I don't really know who the guy is there. So maybe hold the phone. I think one thing to keep note of is Chandler Jones is returning. So that defense is going to get a much-needed boost, both in the rush game and the pass game. I don't think they're going to let, like, David Montgomery was kind of just getting 3, 4, 5 yards a pop up the middle every time, and kind of Chandler Jones is going to eliminate that, I think, to some degree. So it's going to be a bit harder. Whereas the Jags were actually much better against the ground last week. They gave up the 4th least amount of yards. So I don't know. If you're starting a Chiefs running back to start with, God bless you and your family. I'm not doing that. I don't. I have no faith in that backfield, so I'm probably not starting them to start with. But it was pretty middle of the pack in terms of passing yards allowed. So kind of wheels up, obviously, for Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, obviously. I don't know what you're doing with their pass catchers too. This is another thing. Like, if you started Sky Moore last week, you're probably not doing that again this week. You're probably not starting Tony. So in my opinion, like, you're probably not starting any of those pass catchers, but this passing game is going to be a lot better this week. I just can't tell you who's going to be the guy. So
wide receiver by committee.
I don't know.
First ever.
God,
First ever one.
Put Rashee Rice in your flex. Why not? I don't know. This game is going to be awesome, though. I think we're going to see a ton of points. I think a lot of like your big time players are going to show up. Huge bounce by game for the Chiefs. I could personally see the Jags sniffing this out as the home dog. I think the Chiefs win, but if the Jags and the Jaguars
0-2 for Kansas
I don't know.
City.
It just
You planting your flag in that one?
home dog. Jacksonville looked good. If we circle back on Sunday and Jacksonville has won, I did call it.
Oh, okay. Okay, so no flag plant here.
I'm flag planting.
There we go. There we go.
The flag is down. The
Cue
boys
up
are
milk
at
was
home.
a bad choice. It's too damn hot.
Nope. This is a nice cold glass of 2% with dinner. It tastes just right. So I'm going with the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I'm fired up. This is an awesome matchup. What else we got on the slate, boys? We got two more exciting matchup. Keegan, why don't you dive in next for us?
Yeah, why don't you hop in there, Keegan? What matchup are you spotlighting this weekend for fantasy?
The next one that we've got here is I think a very interesting battle of two teams that I'm not really sure how to identify right now. I mean, this matchup is the Seattle Seahawks at the Detroit Lions. Now, last week we saw the Lions win against Kansas City, and we saw Seattle Seahawks lose to a projected tanking team, the Los Angeles Rams. Now, I think I can throw a lot away from the Seahawks last week and kind of throw it out the window when talking about this matchup. But I do think there's a lot from Detroit that I do like, especially going back to last season. But I think this will be one of the games that we can kind of project for up in pace. And also just like there's some sneaky shootout potential here in this game. Like the Lions last year, they produced the league's like most average points per game. They was like 51.8 like points per game in Lions matchups last year across the board. And the Seahawks themselves weren't like highly touted on defense, and they were in a lot of shootouts themselves. The Seahawks last year
when they played.
Oh, I'll get to it. I'll get to
last year.
I'll get to it.
He's getting there.
I stepped on you. Oh my goodness.
He's getting there. He's getting there.
Okay. I was like,
I'll get to it.
Still getting flashes of that. Jeez.
The Seahawks last year gave up the six most explosive plays last year, and including 12 the last time they were in Detroit. And as Shaun hinted to, 93 points were scored in the last time these two teams matched up. A couple things I'm looking at here. One specifically is Seattle's offensive line. I think that's where the concern starts with them. There were some glaring holes last week, and I think now they're down two starters. I don't know if they will play this week going into the Lions matchup. And the Lions showed a lot of improvement, I think, against Kansas City on the defensive side of the ball. It's very obvious that Aidan Hutchinson is a gamer a little bit. He is quite the dog. So that is one matchup I'll be focusing on, is that Lions kind of like improved, or I guess better coached, you will say, in another year in the system, kind of against Seahawks banged up offensive line, because I want to see like Seattle have time in the pocket. I would love to see Geno have some more time to play in the pocket and get to his receivers, but we're kind of banking on the Seahawks to stay alive a little bit against the defense to keep this matchup like up in tempo. But 47 and a half, depending on what book you're looking at for projected total. Lions are 5.5 point favorites. Seahawks actually do enter this week fourth in neutral pass rate after last week, so we're getting some good pace numbers here. On the Seahawks side of the ball, I think it's DK Metcalf is their offensive game plan, at least from the wide receiver position. He was pretty like clear and away the most important player on the team last week, just from my personal opinion. Tyler Lockett and concussion protocol. So I think we could see another big DK week. Had the touchdown last week, and that like kind of boosted his fantasy floor a little bit, but I really think he's got another big week ahead of them. Based off air yards and first read shares, he's the biggest piece of their offensive game plan. Like, he ranked extremely high in both air yards and first read target share. And the Seahawks ran 11 personnel and 58% in week 1, and that's down from 63% on the year in 2022. So, some things to monitor. I also think some things with DK, like, he was obviously the most involved as the wide receivers go, ran 93.5% of the team snaps, also played on 100% of the team snaps inside the 10 and inside the 20, which is much higher than Lockett and JSN last week. So, but I mentioned we didn't get a great look at Seattle's passing game. It's hard to project him against Detroit this week. I think it'll be a little bit different. So we don't have to sit here and say, well, Lockett and JSN might not have a chance to be play worthy this week, because it was kind of a crapshoot. I mean, that was just a weird game for Seattle. The run game,
they got pushed around. I rewatched it on a condensed game, and they got bullied in the trenches, which makes me a little nervous because the Lions have a bit of a more beefed up defensive front this year.
Yeah,
offensive front too, man. If they dominate if the Seahawks do not recover, I will not financially recover. It's going to be not being able to recover on multiple fronts. So yeah, we need the boys from Seattle
down both their starting tackles potentially this week.
Disaster.
Gabe Lucas, their right tackle, is on IR, and Charles Cross has turf toe, and he's like week to week.
Aidan's gonna eat me.
Yeah, and so some other things I'm looking at here. I think one thing that we can definitely point out. I love Zach Charbonnet. We all love Zach Charbonnet, but I just don't think it's his time yet. Like, Kenneth Walker is the clear lead back in this offense. Like, 12 carries and 5 receptions isn't a lot, but he also had a 19.2% target share as a running back, which was second best on the week. So very encouraging for his usage. One player I think might have a potential bounce back week is JSN, though, as long as the offensive line can give him some time. He led the Seahawks last week in routes from the slot, like 93% of the team's total slot snaps belong to JSN. And I think this could be a week where they get a little sneaky JSN action. To be honest, I think that's a pretty good matchup for JSN. Detroit last week, 120 yards out of the slot allowed. Wow, tough day, long day watching football.
Hey, yo.
Second most on the week of yards allowed out of the slot, so that's pretty interesting. And then on the Lions side of the ball, out of the slot, speaking of cough cough, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Seattle let up 91 yards out of the slot alignment last week, and ARSB ran 17 of his 31 routes out of the slot last week. So ARSB could be in for a really big week. And then one sneaky guy I'm watching out of this matchup is Josh Reynolds. He had 80 yards out wide last week, and the Seahawks allowed 173 yards to wide receivers lined up out wide. So I think there's some very intriguing things here. I honestly don't know if defense will be a huge factor. Maybe, just maybe, Geno Smith doesn't have enough time to throw, but I'm thinking points. Up and pace gameplay. I think this is a good environment for the running backs, middle of the road for them, but really good environment for wide receivers on both sides of the ball. So I'm pretty excited to watch this matchup.
Are you glossing over a huge factor about the environment this game's played in? Because
we're talking Dome Bros. We are back.
Ford Field, right? Because every time Ford Field showed up on the slate last year, it was Cash City.
Explosion.
It was fantastic. Now I think the Lions might have a better defense, which I'm a little concerned about, and I'm a little concerned about the Seahawks offensive line. But at the end of the day, if the Lions go up big and the Seahawks are playing catch up, I don't know, dude. They got embarrassed on their home field. Do we throw it out? I don't, because
it's
bad.
week 1. I'm trying to throw it out for now.
A lot of week 1 tape you can throw out. But
it is, like I said, it's week 1. I want to try and ignore it, but there are some things that I definitely want to pay attention to. I think the slot usage is one thing, of course, for JSN, and then
JSN
also slot usage against the Seahawks as well too. Sam Laporta ran 44% of his routes out of the slot, most among tight ends last week. So there was another advantageous matchup for you. And then, I put a note here another note here. The Lions got to get Gibbs involved more. I think they have to. Montgomery is obviously the lead back here, and I think we all understand that now just based off usage, and he will get goal line work. But Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson need to realize that Jahmyr Gibbs is a difference maker, and he's got to be on the field more.
I was listening to a podcast, the Underdog Fantasy show, and Hayden Winks and Josh Norris were talking about how Dan Campbell was on the staff with Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram the year they went absolutely nuts. Their rookie year, Kamara's rookie year, and Kamara got eased in the first 2 to 3 weeks before they unleashed him. So maybe Campbell, who came out and said after the game, after he said, I wanted Gibbs to sit there and see an NFL game before throwing him into the fire. Obviously, Gibbs isn't necessarily the most skilled pass protector, so they're going to run Monty out there to protect their quarterback and try and win a huge game on the road against the defending Super Bowl champions. So maybe it was just game environment. Maybe this is all part of the plan, but I agree. If the Lions are serious about being Super Bowl contenders this year, they're going to need every single ounce of juice out of Jahmyr Gibbs, especially considering they took him 12th overall and he's on his rookie contract. So keep my fingers crossed that was the worst we get of Gibbs, even though he looked absolutely electric. I'm quite excited to see him tear up that Seattle defense that looks as bad as advertised,
vulnerable.
Maybe even worse.
Vulnerable. Yeah.
My matchup this week. Do we have anything else for Seahawks Lions?
Proceed.
No, I don't think so. Also, no Jamal Adams I think this week, so that definitely plays a factor for sure.
Seahawks.
Greatest trade
are in trouble.
Jets history.
Greatest trade in Jets history for sure. I just had to bring up the middle linebacker Jamal Adams. That's all.
Yes. Oh no.
Let's
Okay, so for my matchup this week, I have got the Texans at the Colts. No, I couldn't do it. I really wanted to.
Can't keep glazing
A-Rich.
No, we can't glaze A-Rich.
Oh no, not glazing for real. I really wanted to highlight for real. I really wanted to highlight Texans versus Colts because I think both teams play up tempo. They're playing indoors with suspect defensive personnel, like Jalen Petrie on the Texans is already injured with a bruised lung. Hopefully he's good. It's kind of a sketch injury. They put another guy on IR, so the Texans defense, which looked frisky against Lamar, already starting to kind of wear down in week 2, which isn't great. But I can't really advocate for a matchup that has a 39 Vegas point total. That is just not great. It's one of the lowest of the weekend. That line actually opened at 41 and is down to 39. So based off of the pace numbers in that offense, I think it's going to be a fast-paced game. I actually want to take the over in that matchup, but I'm just going to go towards a much sexier matchup with one of the best defensive coaches of all time, with a burgeoning offensive mastermind in Mike McDaniel. So I'm going to go Dolphins at Patriots here, the Sunday night game. This matchup's about as tasty as you're going to get, coming off of pretty impressive offensive performances for both teams. We all saw what Tua was able to do against the Chargers. And we saw what Mac Jones was able to do against the Eagles. It seems a little less impressive now that we just watched Kirk Cousins throw for 4 touchdowns and 300 yards. Maybe this Eagles defense has a good pass rush and it's bend don't break. Maybe they just go out to big leads and they give up a bunch of points. I don't know. The game script, it's still out, like the jury, but Mac Jones looked really good. It was honestly one of the best performances of his career. Bill O'Brien's a real offensive coordinator. I think that's something to really take away from that. And both these teams, I think, are going to be able to put up points in this one. So this one opened with a 44-point total, and it's already up to 46.5. I wouldn't be shocked if this gets up to 47 before Sunday night. When looking at pace, and Keegan and I have referenced pace a couple of times, we get all of our pace stuff from Pat Thorman over on Establish the Run. The Dolphins surprisingly had the 3rd highest neutral pass rate in week 1. So last season they were pretty run heavy or balanced, but they were passing the shit out of the ball out of the gates against the Chargers. But they still averaged the 31st slowest time in average play clock remaining. So they wind the clock down, but they were passing it in a track meet. They did have a 65% pass rate in that neutral situation, and they had a mind-boggling 26% explosive rate. 26% of their plays generated 15 yards or more, which is absurd. And again, they had the 6th fastest adjusted pace. So they were playing relatively quick. ton of explosives. We all know the drill with Miami. When we're looking at the Patriots side of things, they operated with the fastest pace of all teams in week 1. Now, they went down 16 points, so that's something to keep in mind. But they were playing at the fastest pace of any team in the NFL, and they deployed the third highest no-huddle rate. Mac Jones had 58 dropbacks. 58 dropbacks. In my notes, I have LOL and 3 exclamation points. Their pass rate combined with their pass rate over expected had them as the sixth pass happiest team in week 1. Say that 3 times fast. 6th pass happiest team in week 1. So again,
no, we'll say it one more time. You only said it twice. You got to say it 3 times.
6th pass happiest team in week 1. Okay, so their situational neutral pass rate came in around 23rd. So there's some indicators here that they could play slow. Did they just play super fast because they went down? Were the Dolphins playing fast because you're looking at the Chargers hitting all these big plays? I don't know. This could be a slower paced game, but I think the pace is indicative of what this could be, and I think this could be a shootout. On offense, the Patriots are most likely going to attack a Dolphins defense that just got absolutely shredded on the ground by the Dolphins. So the Dolphins surrendered the second most RB fantasy points, the most yards to running backs, the highest EPA per play to rush attempts. It kind of felt like Vic Fangio was daring an offensive coordinator in Kellen Moore to run on him. This could change game to game based off of personnel, but you have to think Ramondre Stevenson is going to eat this Sunday. Now, the Patriots could be down 4 starting offensive linemen for this game. I don't know if that's the case, but they could already be down 4 starting offensive linemen. So that, not great, Jim. Oh, I don't know. So check this out. I was pulling up some like zone versus man coverage stuff on fantasy points. So on defense, the Patriots were able to play zone really effectively against the Eagles wide receivers. It was kind of a quiet day for A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, even with their rookie cornerback, Christian Gonzalez. Played a lot of zone. And Tua did most of his damage last week with Tyreek Hill against man. If you remember J.C. Jackson getting sent to the shadow realm, it was man coverage when Tyreek scored that touchdown. So I expect Tyreek to get his regardless, but when teams play zone, Waddle tends to play better. So if you looked at Waddle's splits last week, zone versus man, Waddle was the preferred choice over those like routes over the middle of the field, beating zone. So I think this could be a big Waddle game. Waddle, the last time they played the Patriots, he went 5 for 69 and 1, and this was in the Tua matchup, not the Skylar Thompson or Teddy Bridgewater matchup. And the last time Tua played the Pats, he went for 270 and a touchdown with Mike McDaniel. So he could light it up a little bit. So I don't know where this goes. If they decide to play man coverage, Godspeed. Tyreek Hill, another 50 bomb is incoming because no man on earth can cover the cheetah. If they decide to go more zone looks, mix it up, make it a little bit trickier on Tua, I think this could be a Waddle game. I don't think you can play my guy Durham Smythe. Bill Belichick's a tight end eliminator, but he will be on the field running a ton of routes. And I don't know who's going to be the primary pass catcher for the Patriots. I think Kendrick Bourne had an excellent game. He might have benefited greatly from 58 pass attempts. Devontae Parker is limited. He may play this week. And Hunter Henry is definitely in consideration. And we're going to tap into Hunter Henry a little bit more later on. Don't want to spoil things.
Wow.
But those are our matchups. So last week after we presented our 3 matchups, we decided on picking what would be the highest scoring one. In our 3 matchups last week, just to hold ourselves accountable, we had the Colts,
Chargers,
Jags,
Dolphins.
Chargers,
Colts,
Dolphins,
Jags as well.
And Bucks, Vikings. Okay, and all 3 games yielded a decent amount of fantasy points. Bucks, Vikings had a couple wonky fumbles that I think kind of hurt the overall total there. But out of these 3 matchups that we have here today, 3 of the matchups we're highlighting here in Matchup Spotlight. Which one do you think has the most points?
Fantasy points or football points?
Say fantasy points. Which one yields the most fantasy points?
It's tricky because I think there are some outlier players in some of these matchups. For instance, the Dolphins. I think there are some outliers that could lead to maybe a higher fantasy point production. But I think Ramondre and Hunter Henry, as you mentioned, are both smash plays this week. And then Tyreek Hill is Tyreek Hill. The only problem I have with that game is Bill Belichick, division rival. It could get a little gross there. I know I just went on and on about the Seattle Seahawks and Detroit Lions. But
I think I would go that one.
The Seahawks scare me a little bit.
I would go that one. That one's played indoors. I'm going Lions.
There's just more overall players too. Like my game has like a lot of pass catchers that like you can't count on. I think Keegan's has the most like players that people are starting that are going to score points. That like we know we're going to score points.
I think that game is going to be the shootout game. It's got the shootout environment. We saw it shootout last year. Maybe Chauncey Gardner. Is that a Dome Bros theme song?
Yeah. I don't know, guy. Dome Bros, DONEBROS, Dome Bros. Yeah.
Today. Okay. Okay, we're gonna take Seahawks and we're gonna take Lions. This is the game that's gonna yield the most fantasy points. I like that. Okay. Shifting over to our starts and sits of the week. We did pretty well last week, but it's always kind of a crap.
Speak for yourself, man. I got cooked.
One guy when you have to start with one guy. So we're gonna start with quarterback. We're gonna go start sit. So we're gonna give our 3 starts or 3 sits. I'm gonna kick things off first, and we don't know who they are, so there might be some overlap. I'll kick things off first. I'm starting Daniel Jones.
No, my guy.
I
will not quit you, Daniel. I don't care what they say about you. Shaun, take it away, man.
Okay. So they're playing indoors.
That was my first word.
Domed environment. They're playing indoors against the Cardinals. This is a must-win game. They've got the 49ers on a short week in San Francisco, in Santa Clara for the 49ers home opener. That is not going to be that kind of a matchup for the Giants, in my opinion. They have to wash the stench out that was last week. A 40-0 drubbing on your home field is humiliating. They're 4-point favorites with the 11th highest implied team total. Sam Howell, who had 2 turnovers and didn't play that well against the Cardinals, still scored 15 one-point fantasy points. He was able to score a rushing touchdown as well. I think Danny Dimes is going to have a nice game rushing the ball against this Arizona Cardinals defense. He had 2. I think Daniel Jones is going to run. He's going to throw on this team. I expect him to bounce back. I expect the pass pro, which was a nightmare against the Cowboys, I expect it to be much better against a Arizona Cardinals front where I don't think I can name a player. Is Marcus Golden still pass rushing for the Cardinals? Maybe. And I think Darren Waller bounces back too. So I like Danny Dimes in this matchup. Keegan, who is your QB? Wait, Aidan, is that it? Did I cover everything for Dimes? Is there anything I'm missing there?
I just want to add on one thing. Like Sam Howell will put up 15 points in like what felt like it was like getting like a root canal watching him, and it was like he's kind of like a Daniel Jones light. So I've got Daniel Jones penciled.
Oh, give me the real things, baby.
I know.
I want the real thing.
I'm penciled him in for 20 plus. I think he goes 2 through the air, 1 on the ground, and has a pretty awesome day in the dome. So I'm excited for Daniel Jones. That was a pretty easy one for me.
Keegan, who you starting at quarterback this week?
Mine's pretty easy. I'm just going to follow the trend I did last week, and I'm actually plucking a quarterback from the matchup that I have highlighted. I think if there was a week to start Jared Goff, this is the week. I think the matchup for everything that I've highlighted is very, very beneficial to Jared Goff. I thought he was pretty impressive against Kansas City last week. And you know what? I'll tell you one thing about Jared Goff. The guy loves to play at Ford Field. In 9 home games, he averaged 26.5 fantasy points per game. Jared Goff loves playing at home. Yes. Let's not forget, we mentioned how many points were scored in the matchup last time they played. Last year, he went for I went on a pretty basic quarterback scoring setting, but 38-point outing for a pocket passing quarterback in his last matchup.
And you said 38 as in 3-8?
3-8.
Gino had 40. It was insane. The both of them just went
I need new underwear.
Dude.
We're talking about a pocket passing quarterback with absolutely limited rushing upside who went for 38 points against this Seattle defense, and he went ballistic with 378 yards and 4 touchdowns. I think Jared Goff and the team look better this year. I think Gibbs is an upgrade to their weapon room. Amon-Ra St. Brown is still Amon-Ra St. Brown. And I don't really think the Seattle defense is anything to be worried about. So I think for all the reasons I talked about with the pace of play, that'll be up in tempo, Seattle's weaknesses on defense, this is a great matchup for Jared Goff, and I think a great spot start if you're a little worried about your quarterback position.
Dude, the Seahawks were bad down the stretch last year because their offensive line started to slip. Gino did not look good when pressured. If you're a Seahawks bag holder and have a lot of Seahawks or have bet them to win the division, getting tossed around like that by the no-name Rams is I mean, obviously Aaron Donald, of course. I'm nervous. I think I think Goff's a great start. I think I'm just nervous about the Seahawks.
I'm not gonna sit here and like try and rain on anybody's Geno parade, but I'll just tell you firsthand experience. I've seen the worst parts of Geno. I've lived through it. I've seen the worst parts. But
no.
He didn't write back. Stop it.
He didn't even have a.
But I like Jared Goff.
I don't think he owned a pen in New York. He's leveled up he's leveled up.
Couldn't afford a pen the way he played in New York. But
oh no! Oh my goodness, the Geno slander. Okay, moving on to sits of the week. I have my quarterback here. I'm curious. This might be a trifecta.
I already know we have
so
the same
easy.
one. It's so easy.
It's Dak Prescott.
Oh,
Okay.
Dude,
okay.
it is
dude!
like,
I thought I was
we're all
coming
sitting
into
down.
this
If
being
you
like
have
I'm an
Dak
absolute
Prescott
homer.
in your lineup this
Do
week,
not start
like
him. Do not
you
start him.
don't you don't like know what's going on at all. Like
No,
Josh Allen
do
just
not
got
start
absolutely
him this
stifled. Part of it was like him shooting himself in the foot multiple times, but yeah, dude, this
Which Dak? I mean, the INT leader last year. Come on. I know some of that was a little like unfortunate, but I have
stats.
here in my notes. Yeah,
Take us away.
Go first, Keith.
2 stats for you guys.
yeah.
Well, first off, I just want you to guess. When's the last time you think the Cowboys beat the Jets? What year?
I'm gonna go with 2008.
Wow, pretty close. 2007. 2007 is the
Dang.
last time the Cowboys beat the
the
Jets.
recession.
Is this at
In the
Jets
last-
or in general?
In general, in the last 15
It
games
is in
for
New
the
York,
Jets,
correct?
by the way, we're
back on the
it's in
evil
Dallas.
No,
Dallas.
it's in Dallas.
Oh, is it?
It's in
Okay.
Dallas.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in Dallas.
Listen to this. Last
More evil
15
turf.
games dating back to last season, Jets have allowed 9 passing touchdowns, and they've also intercepted the ball 15 times. So I don't love the matchup for Prescott. Now, I'm not saying Dallas is going to lose by any means, but I don't think it's a very good matchup for him.
As long as Tony Pollard and the posse stands the fuck up, I don't care what happens to Dak, bro. We're
This has got posse game written all
10
over
toes
it.
down, 10 toes down. Yeah.
I've got it here. It's a 39.5 total. That's brutal. The Jets defense just forced 4 Josh Allen turnovers. Now again, I think Dak might be, historically might be safer with the ball than Josh Allen, but we did see Dak make a ton of dumb passes last year. He was the 2022 INT leader. Brandon Cooks sprained MCL on the MetLife turf in the pouring rain. It would be pretty nice to have Brandon Cooks to at least open up the offense. I feel like the offense is going to feel like it has a roof on top of it. I think CeeDee Lamb will be fine, but I don't know. This one feels like a just get out, win the home game. I feel like the Cowboys will be more capable of executing the game plan that the Bills should have executed, where it's like lean on Tony Pollard. Their offensive line is banged up too. They're rotating in 8 starters in and out, but they're an offensive line factory. It seems like whenever there's an injury, somebody pops up who's better than the previous guy. I don't know how they keep getting away with it over in Dallas, but I don't know. The only thing I have in here that could swing this is they play in a dome, and so you might just have some big plays occur. But this kind of just feels like suffocate Zach Wilson, sit on the ball, run the ball. Low scoring affair. I don't unless like Dak Prescott scores a bunch of rushing touchdowns. I just don't see how.
I don't mean this in like a negative way against the Jets. I think I'm just facing reality. But like in order for Dak Prescott, I think to have like a massive fantasy outing, it would take something we've never seen, and that's like a Zach Wilson shootout. Like, I think in order for Dak to be a viable play, like it would actually take a Zach Wilson shootout game versus Dak Prescott. So, I'm Jets fan through and through, but like
I don't see it
that's
happening.
just never happened. So, I'm avoiding that.
I don't see it happening. Okay, we're all aligned. So we're starting Daniel Jones and Jared Goff this week, and we're sitting Dak Prescott.
Dak.
Moving on to running back here. I don't think the three of you are going to have this start. This start is if he can't do this in this game, then it might be time to give up start.
No.
And my start of the week here is Rashad White.
I almost put that one. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I'm right here.
In week 1, 79% of snaps, 51% of attempts, 52% route participation. Baker did not target him much in this one. This run blocking scheme might be terrible. We saw Rashad White get like 13 carries for 39 yards, like 17 carries for 39 yards against this Vikings team that just let DeAndre Swift rush for like 180 yards. So this might be bad news. Maybe DeAndre Swift is just so good in that Eagles offensive line, but this team just surrendered the Bears just surrendered 33 fantasy points to the Packers' backfield, and most of that damage was done to Aaron Jones as a pass catcher. Look, Rachaad White is not Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones has had like a slept-on, incredible career, but Rachaad White is trying to kind of be poor man's Aaron Jones a bit as a pass
Very
catcher.
poor.
So, like, if
Like a homeless Aaron Jones.
yeah, we didn't really see A.J. Dillon do much, and I think Rachaad White might be closer to A.J. Dillon than he is Aaron Jones at this point, but the pace numbers suggest that this one could be up. I think that, points are going to be scored in this one. The
Both
Buccaneers
teams.
defense is chaotic. Yes, no, I think Justin's
What are
going to
you
bounce
laughing
back.
about?
I feel good about him. And if White continues to see that many carries and can't do anything with it, he's going to lose his job, right? They're just going to start rotating in different guys, or it's not great. So I think White's going to have to produce in this one, or at least be decent. We've seen him be decent in London against the Seahawks, where he trash rush defense. So I'm holding out our hope and prayer on this one, but I'm starting Rachaad White. That's my start of the week. Okay, Aidan, who are you starting at running back?
We've already said his name a couple times. Do not fear. Jahmyr Gibbs is here. The load is increasing.
I need it.
Dan Campbell has already said this week, like,
The load is increasing.
load size large. So Jahmyr Gibbs, man, do not fear. Like, he was so efficient last week. He had 7 carries and 2 catches for 60 yards. The dude almost averaged 10 yards a touch. He was a beast. In his 9 touches, he had 6 broken tackles. Like, he was second in the league in broken tackles compared to guys that had 15, 20 plus touches. It was absolutely incredible. They're only going to ramp him up. Like, what we saw last week, like, that was like the most vanilla version of Jahmyr Gibbs we are going to see all year. It's like Shaun said, like, Dan Campbell was there for Alvin Kamara. It's only going to get better. It's going to be just like putting Lego blocks on this beautiful little structure that is Jahmyr Gibbs. And by the end of the year, it's going to be like, wow, this awesome finished piece. But it's going to get better and better and better. They're in a dome. I repeat, they're in a dome. They're in a dome. We all know that. DB. Yeah, so I'm fired up. I think Gibbs is only going to get better as his snap share increases. I'd be shocked if he wasn't closer to like 40% this week. I think he was just under 30. Not looking at it. I want to say like 26 or something. It wasn't great.
He forced like 0.6 missed tackle. It was like he forced like
stupid.
10 missed tackles on
It was,
like 6
dude,
attempts. It was ridiculous.
He looked just so fast.
So good. He looked like Jamal
once
Charles.
he got, like,
I tried to tell
yeah.
you guys scoffed at
No,
me.
I'm not
He
calling
looked
him Jamal Charles.
incredible.
He's got to earn that one.
Yeah, I'll never do that.
Yeah, no, Jahmyr Gibbs, though. Let's go. Dome bro.
Okay, Keegan, who are you starting at running back?
I think this is as good a week as any to put your faith and your money back in on James Cook. Last week, tough
start.
matchup against the Jets.
start.
But I think one thing is very apparent. Devin Singletary, not a factor. There was a lot of Devin Singletary this, Devin Singletary that, James Cook running upside this, James Cook rushing upside that. And I think it all went out the window last week when we all saw them prioritize him and their game plan against like a very, very good defense. 16 touches isn't a ton, 4 of those being receptions. Like I said, tough matchup, but like the role is extremely encouraging to me and like what they think James Cook is, and they displayed that to us. Buffalo's also a 9.5 point favorite this week against Las Vegas. Like, very friendly to the run script, like can give James Cook a lot more opportunities to just like rush the ball. Like maybe 15 rushing attempts, 16 this week with catches to go along with it. Last year, Vegas was extremely kind to fantasy running backs, 3rd most points allowed to the running back position in fantasy last year. And last week they had an okay game, but I'm not going to sit here and say Denver is the most like intimidating rushing attack, but they did allow 91 yards rushing last game. I think this is a great play for James Cook, and I would ride him. Last week you were probably a little bit disappointed, but
You'd ride
this
him?
week I
Hey,
think it's a
Ride
good
him?
time.
Yeah.
You'd ride him?
Hey,
You'd ride him?
yo.
Okay.
But yeah,
okay.
I like James
Keegan's
Cook this week.
riding, You're riding James Cook this
James-
week.
dude, he
Okay,
looked great
I like
last
that.
week.
I think
If
he
only
looked
they
good.
stuck
People
to
were
the
saying
script,
he didn't.
he looked great.
He looked
if
good.
like what I
Wiggle.
think he averaged like just over like 4 yards a pop, which isn't like eye dropping, but like, dude, the Jets defense
thought he looked
is
good.
really good. If they just stuck to
thought he
that
looked
and like did shorter passes, like they would have won by like 3 touchdowns. Just like just a little pop, like small things. Instead, Josh Allen's like 60,
Pop.
60-yard double coverage, pow. Like, dude, knock it off.
I was listening to something, a podcast where they mentioned that the Bills have drafted Zach Moss, Devin Singletary, and James Cook in like 3 consecutive drafts with round 2 and round 3 draft capital, and like they low-key need one of them to hit. So it would kind of make sense if they feed James
This
Cook
is the one.
or feature him.
This is the one.
Yeah, this is the
This
one.
is the one.
So the sit of the week, I think, is appropriate because he's related to James. Do we all have the same sit?
No.
I do not have this sit, but I agree with what you're saying here.
Dalvin Cook. So quickly, Breece Hall versus Dalvin Cook in week 1. Breece had 10 carries for 127 yards. Dalvin Cook had 13 for 33. Breece Hall averaged
13 carries
12
for 33 yards.
Yeah,
That's
it was
pretty
12.7
cooked.
yards per carry versus 2.54. Breece Hall forced 0.64 missed tackles per attempt to 1.15. 10.6 yards after contact per attempt versus 2. Michael Carter probably looked better than Dalvin Cook straight up when they were on the field together in that game. The Jets have an implied team total of 15 points against the Dallas Cowboys.
Ugh.
He is inefficient, he is dusty, and he's a committee RB in a projected blowout. The only way that he's hitting home is if he catches like 6 passes in garbage time. You could, oh my God, you can get your fantasy points elsewhere this week. I'm good.
I'd rather start Breece than Dalvin. Like if I was looking at both of them on
it's
my
a
roster, like, I'll
no-brainer.
just start Breece for the one chance that like he hits a home
It's a
run.
bomb. Yeah,
That
it's a
feels
bomb.
like such an easy decision between the 2 running backs.
Aidan, did you also have Dalvin Cook this week?
No.
Ooh, okay.
So I had a guy that was on my start last week. Welcome to hell, Antonio Gibson. You were off. You were off my rock. You were 1 week away from being dropped, my friend, dude.
I almost dropped him.
He
I
is, dude.
dropped
You were
him. That was
on
crazy.
thin ice, Antonio. I don't know how else to tell you this, man. I'm mad at you. I'm mad at you. You embarrassed me in front of all my friends and everyone that believed in you. I sang praises about you this summer, and Eric Bieniemy was going to fix you. This year is different. It's going to be like rookie year. Antonio, he's back. Antonio Gibson is in the doghouse and on my bench and close to the waiver wire, man. What a disgrace. Dude, 3 carries, 9 yards, red zone fumble, 1 target. Like, dude, not to mention
The red zone
the Broncos
fumble.
were
I said we're
stingy
so
to start
back.
with, too. Josh Jacobs had
yeah.
60, or no, I think not Josh Jacobs alone. I think it was maybe their entire running back room.
No, I think Josh Jacobs had insane volume. He couldn't hit home.
Yeah.
Like their front is
If
good.
Josh
And they
Jacobs
run
isn't
no
going to
plays.
burst with that rush defense, guess what, Antonio Gibson? Neither are you, because you're not really rushing the ball. You're kind of a pass catcher. They had 28 yards as a team through the running back room. Antonio Gibson, you were on my bench, and you were 1 week away from getting cut. I swear to God, my friend. Get to the bench. Enjoy the pine, because I hate you.
Come on, you don't hate Antonio.
No, I
Okay,
hate Antonio
Let's
Gibson.
relax.
What he embarrassed
Keegan,
me.
who are you sitting this week?
I think I'm going to sit one of the fantasy community's favorite waiver wire pickups this week, and I might follow this trend all year because I did it last week too. But please, for the love of God, don't start Kyron Williams.
Don't do that.
Do not
Do
start
not
Cam
do that.
Akers this
Do
week.
not do that.
Like
Don't
I
do it.
felt like this was kind of a layup thing.
Is that a
but,
BOGO?
Like, yeah, it's a BOGO. It's a BOGO. But it's more like a go-go giveaway one.
It's like a parking ticket. It's like parking ticket and getting towed. It's a twofer.
Yeah, it's getting a parking ticket, but you've also got a boot on your tire.
Yeah. You got to pay both. You got to pay both.
Yeah, I don't think there's much to say. Like
Don't do
we
it.
said,
Do not
sit
Good
Najee
luck.
Harris last week. Good luck against this 49ers front. Like the Rams will also most likely not be in a winning game script against the 49ers, even after they had a very impressive week last week. It's just not a good environment for Rams running backs, and people probably spent a lot of fab on Kieran Williams. Just don't do it this week.
I'd start Kieran over Cam Akers because I think
Of course.
I think
For sure.
Kieran can get home with catching passes if I were to
Akers
pick
just
one.
sucks.
But I wouldn't start either.
Moving on to receivers this week. I wrote this before training camp news was dropped that the man, the myth, the legend sat out practice today with an oblique injury.
Who's hurt now?
I'm talking about Puka Nacua as my start of the week here at wide receiver. We're talking about a 70-30 slot versus outside roll. Rams close to 8-point home underdogs. The Rams O-line held up well against the Seahawks on Sunday, but this is a different test against the 49ers defense. I don't see a lot of touchdowns for this offense on Sunday, but I am expecting a ton of volume to catch up, and I expect that volume to go to Nakua. Pretty much every underlying stat from Sunday was phenomenal for Mr. Nakua. 49ers surrendered the 11th most receiving yards to the Steelers, to the likes of Calvin Austin, to the likes of George Pickens, to the likes of Allen Robinson after that game got out of hand. Matthew Stafford was one of the best quarterbacks in football last Sunday. I think Nakua, who has like a 10 to 11 point projection if he plays with enough volume, could easily get you 12, 13 points in your flex in a pinch. So I am starting Nakua. You just spent all that fab on him. If he plays, you got to play him. That's where I'm at. Who are you guys starting?
I am going to follow what you said at the running back position, and I'm sorry, Aidan, but I am picking on the Bears a little bit here, and I think you roll with Mike Evans again this week.
No,
I really think
it's Godwin. No,
Godwin. No, it's Evans, dude.
No, you didn't.
No, you picked it. He's got the report with Evans. It was the training camp reports. We guessed wrong.
I said Evans and Baker. They're
Aidan,
getting
you
a
guessed
little
wrong,
chemistry.
Flag plant number 2.
It's
Godwin
Evans.
outscores Evans this weekend. Godwin outscores Evans this weekend. Keegan.
We'll see. But I could have put both down here.
What?
According to PFF, Buccaneers have the best. Buccaneers have the best pass blocking advantage this week, according to PFF. And
from 1 week,
last week,
from 1 week of data.
Okay, that's what we go off here. That's what we go off here. It's the new season.
Guys, this episode's going to be like 2 hours. Oh my goodness.
Proceed,
okay, just let me get through this. All right.
I got you.
Baker's last week was targeting Mike Evans at a crazy rate. Mike Evans was his first read 38% of the passing plays according to Fantasy Points data. And he saw 10 targets. He had a 30% target share. Last week, not impressive numbers, but Dobbs and Reed combined for 74 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 6 receptions. Like, you're telling me that Mike Evans can't do what Romeo Dobbs and Jaden Reed did against the Chicago Bears defense, and it's very apparent that Baker and Mike Evans have good rapport together. I think Mike Evans is another good start this week, and then probably a potential sell-high candidate after that. But ride Mike Evans for one more week and put him in that starting lineup.
Godwin outscores him.
That's fine. I think both pass catchers are great starts in this matchup.
Bears got gashed in the middle of the field. I don't think Mike Evans is taking the top off that defense.
Guys, Godwin wasn't a slot-only player on Sunday. He played a decent amount out wide.
You're fucking my narrative.
It's kind of
fucking my narrative up.
Breaking news. Fucking our narrative up. I thought he was going to be a slot receiver. They had him outside, which I don't think is good post-ACL for Mr. Chris Godwin.
Moving on to the final start of the week.
Quick. Yeah, who you starting?
So we're going Donut Boy. We are going Donut Boy. Which one are we talking about? Dun, 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 dun. T. Higgins, welcome back to the starting lineup. Yes. I don't care if we're fading him. You're idiots. If you are putting T. Higgins on your bench, you're an idiot, and I'd like to trade you for him because he's going to be just fine. Everyone, just take a deep breath. 8 targets, 140 air yards. It wasn't a shortage of opportunity. It was just like a gross game.
Burrow was hurt. Burrow
didn't look good.
For sure.
The weather was kind of gross. I don't know. It didn't work out. All right. T. Higgins, top 20 play this week. He's going to be just fine. The Ravens looked good last week. Whatever.
He's one of the most overrated wide receivers in football.
He's not.
Straight
Shaun,
up.
Let's put your personal narratives away for a second.
He's a 2. No, I'm sorry. The guy's a 2. He's a wide receiver 2 who people think would be a wide receiver 1 on a lot of other teams. If he's your wide receiver 1, your passing offense is not that good.
Ayuk's a 2.
Put the personal narrative away.
Ayuk's a 2, and I like Ayuk.
Yeah, well, Ayuk's better than Higgins.
All right, whatever. We're going to keep going.
Full stop.
Yeah, the Ravens' defense looked fine last week, I guess, against the pass.
If you're listening still.
But Houston's pass catchers are, I don't know, they're not very good, to put it nicely. So T. Higgins will be just fine. Slot him back in the lineup. Don't trade him. Honestly, buy low. Your buddy's panicking. Buy him. Scoop him up. You want a shitty running back? Take him. Yeah. So
low prices. We've got low prices.
Antonio Gibson for T. Higgins.
Chop. Slice your head off. What is it?
sit of the week, because if you're still listening to this and you are not subscribed to this channel, do it. Hit the subscribe button. I have for my sit of the week Cortland Sutton. Anyone else here?
No. I actually thought I was going to share my sit with someone, but maybe it's Keegan.
Fantasy points per game with Jerry Jeudy 6.5. Fantasy points without Jerry Jeudy 12.6.
Is Jeudy back?
Jerry
So,
Jeudy back.
Is Jeudy fully back?
Jeudy might be on
Trending to
limited
play.
snaps. Might be limited snaps, but this game has a 39 Vegas point total. Both these teams are trying to play super slow, establish it. I don't know. Even though the secondaries might have some holes, I'm good. Like last week, Cortland Sutton turned 5 targets into 4 receptions for 32 yards and a score. Those are tight end numbers, brother. I'm good. I'm good off Sutton.
I'm good off that.
Even if the volume's there.
This week, This is an interesting one because I think this is a wide receiver opposite of Cortland Sutton, who is actually going to pick up opportunity due to injury. But George Pickens, I actually don't love the matchup for
It's not a great matchup.
So you starting
for the
A-Rob?
team. No, we're not starting any Steelers wide receivers this week. This is a lot about the offensive line versus defensive line matchup, like rather than it is George Pickens. I do like George Pickens' talent, but the Browns' defense line looks really good. And as long as Myles Garrett is playing for that team, like that's going to be really tough for Kenny Pickett. And he's like not going to have enough time to get the ball out. And I don't really trust Kenny Pickett to support a stud wide receiver right now until I see otherwise. Like the preseason was kind of like Fugazi, like fake.
It's a woozy.
Yeah, even with Deontay Johnson out, I still don't think it's a great start. And Pitt's got the worst matchup for offensive line versus defensive line, according to PFF this week. And they have a pretty below average cornerback wide receiver matchup going against the Browns. And I mean, I know the game was shitty and Burrow wasn't like particularly healthy, but Chase and Higgins combined for 5 catches and 39 yards on 17 targets last week. I just don't love the Pickens start this week.
Yeah, I'm good off that.
Aidan, who are you sitting?
I feel like a Krispy Kreme because we're serving donuts. We've got another donut back in the sit. Drake London, welcome to the bench, brother. Welcome to the bench, brother. Welcome to the bench.
Yeah, I felt like I was going to put this one, but that was too
It's
easy.
too damn easy, man. 1 target,
Get him in the
0
starting
catches.
lineup.
Spoiler alert,
17
my tight end
routes,
plays for the same
starting
team.
lineup.
17 routes ran.
Get him in the starting
Plays
lineup.
pretty much exclusively on the outside. Oh, hello. Welcome to Jair Alexander. You're done, buddy. Welcome to the bench. I wasn't drafting him to start with because it's just like I'm sick of Arthur Smith fucking buying Ferraris and not driving them. And that's exactly what you are. And it's not your fault, Drake. It's not your fault. But guess what? You're on the bench. Sorry, Drake.
Arthur Smith came up to him and said, "Hey, we're gonna get you
No,
ready,
he didn't.
coach. Like we're
No,
gonna get
he
you
didn't.
ready." No, he did. No. This is I've been reading a lot of beat reporter stuff for the Falcons.
whatever.
As you can tell, Arthur's become an obsession of mine over the course of a couple.
I'm
of
good
years.
off Drake. The opportunity is just like he's never going to have the volume to pay off at
Squeaky wheel.
ADP. Never going to pay off at ADP.
I bet you Drake London scores a point this week.
I
he
hope
scores a
Drake London
point.
scores, but I bet you he will not sniff 10.
Oh, I bet you he goes over 10.
All right, that's not much.
Gentlemen's.
All right. On to tight ends here, boys.
On to tight ends. I'm just gonna rip. I'm gonna
I'm gonna
go
go fast too.
start and sit very
Yeah.
quick. My start of the week, Hunter Henry, your NFL tight end receiving yardage leader. Again, another LOL on my notes. The Dolphins surrendered the 4th most fantasy points to tight ends in week 1 with Donald Parham catching a touchdown. So I like Henry against this Dolphins defense. And then my sit is Hayden
That's
Hurst.
my
Death
sit.
taxes and the Saints
my sit as
being
well.
elite at covering tight ends. It feels like a trap. Hurst was great in week 1.
Top team since the start of
but-
last year defending tight ends.
Yeah,
It's a brutal
Saints.
matchup.
I don't know what Dennis Allen's doing. Chig didn't have a single point last week. He probably should have had like a 50-yard touchdown if it wasn't for Tana Dust. But
You guys want Chig to be a thing, and Chig's just not a thing.
He will be a thing.
Man.
You be
Yeah, he's
you
a
be
beast.
quiet.
You better
He's a
shut your
beast.
mouth over there.
Yeah.
okay, those are my. I got Henry and Hurst. I'm starting Henry, sitting Hurst.
Oh.
Aiden, you're sitting Hurst. Who you
Yeah, we
starting?
share a sit. I'm going Sam Laporta. What an impressive debut.
I like that one.
Played over 50% of the snaps, ran 26 routes, caught 4 or 5 targets. I think they're only going to involve him more. Like outside of ARSB and Josh Reynolds, who, wow, what a pleasant surprise. They need a third pass catcher, and it's pretty clear Sam Laporta is going to be that guy. The ghost of Marvin Jones is not to be afraid of. Cleve Raymond's going to get a little touch here and there. And then you got Gibbs, obviously. But, dude, Sam Laporta looks like he absolutely belongs in the NFL. They pretty much replaced Hawkinson with a guy who could be more talented than him. So boom, Sam Laporta in my lineup.
Sammy Ports.
I like that start for
Keegan.
sure.
Yep.
This week, I think also dipping into the rookie well at the tight end position. I think Luke Musgrave is a great start against Atlanta this week. He was two big plays, just kind of off throws from Jordan Love away from having like a top 8 tight end fantasy day. I mean, he had 68 air yards on just 21 routes last week. I definitely expect his routes and offensive participation to increase again. I mean, I understand he's a rookie, but he is their tight end 1. No Christian Watson again. Romeo Doubs, limited practice today on Thursday as we're recording this. And then, last week, Hayden Hurst, as you guys mentioned, he went for 41 yards and a touchdown against Atlanta. I think this is a great matchup and just start overall for Luke Musgrave. And just there's a ton of target opportunity missing without Christian Watson in the lineup and potentially a banged up Romeo Doubs playing. And then sit this week. This one hurts me, and it hurts everybody in the fantasy community, myself, but it's Kyle Pitts.
I knew it. I almost sat him too.
He's catching 6 touchdowns this week.
Maybe this year if he's lucky, but
fade all their pass catchers, man.
Yeah, I mean, 2 receptions on only 3 targets last week. He did go for 44 yards.
Of the air yards.
They just have no interest in passing.
Yes,
they have no interest in passing, though. There's
all
no
the
interest.
advanced stats you can say just don't
5%
matter.
of the air yards. Okay,
Yeah.
he had 85. In my air yards league, Kyle Pitts is crushing. Okay.
Oh, I didn't know they had those scoring
It's an
settings.
unserious offense. It's just unserious, dude. I'm not.
Packers
really,
also, Packers, they only allowed 6.9 points to
throw that out
to tight ends
Throw that
last
out,
week.
Dude. Cole Kmet had a good game actually, which by the way, I got to victory lap that one. Dude, Cole Kmet was tight.
Why? He had 6.9
It
points.
was good for tight end 7. Suck it.
Yeah, it's not saying much, but anyway.
Suck it, Keegan. Yeah.
We all know what Arthur Smith wants to do. We talked about it with Drake London. Just like Kyle Pitts, as much as we all love him, I don't think you can start him until something happens. But I think that does it.
Those are our starts and sits of the week.
It
took us a little while to get here. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, we were riffing. We were vibing. Before we jump, Keegan, you got anything to say to the listeners?
Public service announcement. If you're watching football and it's week 2, it's Thursday night.
No complaint.
Don't complain about the game. Dude, we've waited so long for this. I'm so tired.
This is all we've got,
If it's week 8, whatever, that's fine. I get it. But dude, it's week 2. There was
points.
There was,
I mean,
if we're watching
I cannot stand the
Commanders or
people on Twitter
something on Thursday
saying
night.
that.
Yeah, this was a good football
points.
game. It was
What
a
do
good
you mean?
football game.
Justin Jefferson was on the field.
Dude.
DeAndre Swift, that was very cool to watch DeAndre Swift do that. Yeah,
people on Twitter were like, oh my God, here goes another Eagles drive with 10 plus rushing attempts. I'm like, dude, that's football. We waited so long for this. That is literally football. We waited forever. Don't complain about it. That's my public service
people were
announcement.
railing against establishing the fun. Come on. They were
Correct.
establishing the. Come on. And it was DeAndre Swift, which made it even fun. DeAndre Swift had 20 carries tonight, guys. DeAndre Swift had 20 carries in an NFL game and absolutely.
Yeah, that's not very like him.
It was awesome.
It
was awesome.
him.
I enjoyed
That's
tonight's game.
very
That was
cool.
what I have to say to the people. Don't hate on football when we're just week 2.
Don't hate on it. Unless even when you hate on it, it's fun to hate on it. It's better than what are we doing? Knitting? What the fuck are we doing on a Thursday night? Being with our family and loved ones and having meaningful relationships? No. We're glued to a screen watching Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit fall asleep to an NFL Thursday night game. That's what we're doing. All right, everybody. Until next time.